when I did have that moment in my life 12 or 13 years ago where I did have to, I had to start over, and I said, okay, I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do. I just told myself one thing, and that is I have to protect my family, and I have to provide for my family. And that's all I cared about.
Today on the show, Halle speaks with Lance Armstrong, founder and managing partner at Next Ventures.
Welcome to the Heart of Healthcare podcast. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the show. Today, I'm talking with Lance Armstrong, someone who has lived multiple lives as an elite athlete, cancer survivor, founder of the Livestrong Foundation, and now a VC backing health companies, specifically what he calls whole person care solutions. Quick disclaimer that Lance's fund, Next Ventures, backed Co-Fertility, where I'm a co-founder and board chair. Truly one of my favorite investors who really shows up for his founders. Lance, thank you for being here.
You bet. It's good to be here.
You have had a pretty unconventional career arc. I feel like the through line is you like big challenges, intense pressure. I have to know, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I kind of knew what I was going to do. I mean, I guess, and I have little kids, so I can kind of frame it up a little bit like that, because I have at home still, we have a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. So if I ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? My daughter, who's very ambitious, and she kind of changes her mind month to month, but she would have some idea. Look, I was an athlete my whole life, and I was a competitive athlete. I was a competitive swimmer, and I turned pro in the sport of triathlon when I was 15. So it's the same age as my daughter. And I obviously stayed in school, but I traveled a ton. I was making a living doing this. I was, and just to kind of put it in context, when I was 15 years old, that's in 1986, 1987, traveling to Venezuela and Mexico and the Caribbean, Canada, all over North America to race by myself. No cell phone, no computer, no internet.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I know it's crazy. Like if one of my kids
would you let your daughter do that today?
Well, no, tomorrow she says, I'm really, she plays lacrosse and volleyball. She said, I'm going to cruise down to Venezuela this weekend. I'm going to just go ahead and leave my iPhone at home. I've already bought a ticket. I'll be back in 5 days.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I mean, yeah, no. But I kind of knew, like I was on my path, and now that path did shift a little bit because I obviously transitioned into cycling in the sort of late 80s, early 90s. But I was always on this path of being a professional endurance athlete.
Yeah. Were you also like entrepreneurial? Did you have like little side businesses and stuff?
Other than interacting with sponsors. These weren't hardcore negotiations, but I was dealing with adults, right?
Yeah.
I had some help from my mom, and obviously I raced with adults. The race directors and promoters were adults, and I was living an adult life. So I didn't have a lawn mowing business or a newspaper route or all the traditional stuff.
You didn't have time for that. Yeah.
I didn't have time for that. And then as soon as I, started to make some money, and of course started when in my early 20s, then I was able to invest. And I was always observing and paying attention to the public markets and a few angel deals here or there. But yeah, it's always been a passion.
Yeah. Do you think you would have been surprised if we told 15-year-old Lance that you would start a venture fund?
Yeah, I mean, of course. Look, I think it's a big part of the story. And I'm hesitating or hedging a little because I've had these phases of my life where I've had to really start over, right? And reimagine and reinvent and reemerge. And, as we're kids, obviously we're imagining and emerging. When I was diagnosed, I had to basically start over.
Mm-hmm. And you were 25. You were 25 when you got
in 1996,
cancer.
I was diagnosed. And then, in 2012, 2013, when it all fell apart, that's the part where, to your point and to your question, I'm not sure that anybody would have imagined that in 2013, that hey, what are the chances in a decade or so? Here's what this guy is going to be doing. Because when you think about running a firm like this, or even dreaming one up and starting it, you can't play the game if you can't raise money, unless you've just got some, you've won the lottery. And so we had to hustle, right? And so that it's one thing to have done it. It's another when you step back and you say, and you put yourself in 2012 shoes, and you say, well, what are the chances he does something like that? If you know enough, then you know that really that translates to other people who have trusted him with their money, right? And so that isn't lost on me. And that's why it always, I do think about that a lot. And so so eternally grateful that it's played out.
Yeah. Who was like your first backer at Next?
Our very first LP was a guy by the name of Tench Cox. Tench is one of the original partners at Sutter Hill, who more or less incubated a small company called NVIDIA. He's been on the board of NVIDIA since day one. Tench is a wonderful character. For those, if anybody listening knows him, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's incredibly quirky. He loves just a few things in life. He loves investing. He loves his family. He loves golf. He loves cycling, and he loves music. And I met him 20 plus years ago when he was a big supporter of Livestrong. And so Tench and I just kept in touch over the years, and obviously he has a storied career in venture, so it was a logical one to reach out to. But he was our very first commit. And
you decided to start a fund versus joining. You could have joined any firm as a venture partner or an operating partner, but you went in and said, I want to start my own fund. What drew you to venture capital in the first place, and why did you want to do it on your own?
I think two things. One, I've just been around it. I had quite a bit of exposure just on the LP side, and a lot of luck and success there through folks like Chris Sacca and Brad Silverberg. Also, a lot of the Livestrong board was comprised of, let's just call it, Austin Ventures alum. So Joe Aragona, Jeff Garvey. So I had just been around venture, and I had seen it. It's one thing to be around it; it's another to watch it play out as it did with Lowercase One and that fabulous ride that Chris Sacca took us all on. And so that was interesting to me. And then, why go? I wouldn't call us traditional, but why go a traditional route? I just love team. I love building team. I love kind of tinkering with team. Look, nobody starts on, this. I mean, whether you're starting a venture firm or you're starting a business, or you're trying to build a championship team, so you're gonna get down the road and say, wow, I feel like that position is not totally optimized. So you're gonna make some trades.
And what's nice about a VC versus like a startup is like, you don't have to get too big. Like you just like have like a couple key players and that's it. Whereas like a company has to like grow exponentially over time, and you have to find eventually hundreds of great players. It's much like more intimate at a VC.
Well, that's our view. The only thing I get caught up in is performance. That's all I care about. That's all I've ever cared about. I figure if we have the performance, which we've been able to have thus far through Fund 1, then the rest will sort itself out. Then you start to ask yourself questions of, how many people do you want to work with? How many people do you want to manage? How big do you want this team to be? How many LPs do you want? I don't get into these dig me contests where it's like flexing on fund size, and I just want to perform, right? And I also, the thought of, let's just imagine, right? You had, and I'm not knocking the shops that have hundreds of people or even 40 people. I don't know that that's for me, and I don't know that that's actually for any of us, right? I think if, obviously we'll continue to scale, but keep it in a place where we're comfortable and we feel like we can still perform.
Yeah. How do you measure performance in venture when like the feedback loop is so long? I mean, companies take a decade to really exit. What are you looking at?
I mean, that's been one of I get asked all the time, like, what's been the biggest surprise? Look, this is a long game, right? And it's weird because I'm I'm an endurance athlete, so sort of my DNA is to just keep going and last a long time.
Yeah.
I'm also really just an impatient person. So it's a long game, and it's not that I didn't know that, but time's a funny thing, right? And so it's as it plays out, and you just gotta play the long game, and then
what they say, the days are long, the years are short.
I just have this weird relationship with time, and it's my relationship with time has changed over the last 2 or 3 years, just as I get into my mid-50s, and I've really transformed my life from a health perspective. And I didn't want to, when you think about things, and people say it all the time, like, wow, it doesn't matter if it's a month ago or 10 years ago. People say it all the time. They say, oh, that feels like it was yesterday. Well, because it does, right? So, but if it was 10 years ago and it feels like yesterday, then that means you better be prepared for 10 years from now to feel like tomorrow. And so it's just like this weird process I've been going through. And when you get to my age, I have 5 beautiful children, and you just want to capture memories and capture time, slow down time.
Yeah. So let's talk about Next Ventures. Can you tell us about the thesis that you guys have built out and the kinds of companies that you're most excited to back right now?
It has evolved. And you wouldn't have to look very hard to realize that if you looked at Fund 1 and some of the early companies we invested in. Obviously, Aura was one of those and was a fantastic success.
And we've had the CEO on the show.
Tom.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
A+.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, we were doing companies like PowerDot, which was sold to Therabody, and Hammerhead, a great cycling head unit, or otherwise known as a computer, which we sold to SRAM. So very sort of tip of the spear, very performance oriented. And then as we started to broaden out and just look at healthcare almost in a way like that mirrored my life, right? If I think about my own life and my own health journey, I've spent the vast majority of my life being pretty healthy and being pretty optimized. I've also spent a good year of it knocking on death's door. And so it's both ends of that care continuum, and then all things in. But obviously, I've lived spaces in the middle, and even here recently, just had a couple of health, I wouldn't say issues, but sort of tune-ups that it's kind of put me back into the system. So it's been interesting just to be a patient again and just observe, because it's been a long time. This year, I was diagnosed in 96, so this will be the 30-year anniversary.
Wow.
Of my. This is another one.
What do you say to that? What do you want people to say? Like, congrok, or like, we're glad you're still here. Like, what's the proper?
Well, I'm glad I'm still here.
Yeah, we are too.
Look, I don't think about cancer very often.
Really?
Right? And no, I mean, 30 years in. No, I mean, I'm thinking about it right now because we're talking about it. I wouldn't have thought about it today.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I mean, you had advanced cancer though. Did you, when you were going through that, did you feel like I could lose everything? I could die? Or were you going in like, I'm going to fight this, I'll be fine?
I was both. I was aware that this was a coin flip.
Mm-hmm. Did they give you your chances of your survival curve?
I was in different places. So I was diagnosed in Austin. I started treatment here in Austin. I think it's safe to say that Austin, Texas had never seen a case this advanced. So you're getting sort of mixed messaging. I didn't stay in Austin long. I actually left, did a consult with MD Anderson, and then found my way to Indiana University with Dr. Larry Einhorn, which was just as tough as the treatment was. It was just a fabulous experience. And this is 1996. I hadn't won the tour. I certainly hadn't won 7, but I was a world champion a few years before that. I'd gone to multiple Olympics. So I was still given, I wouldn't say concierge care, but I was really looked after. And I had Larry's attention. I had, most importantly, the nurses' attention. They're the true soldiers in all this, and really make the magic happen. So and my treatment was, while technically not any kind of clinical trial, it was altered to try to preserve my quality of life and my career.
So holistic care, going back to kind of your thesis at Next Ventures, which is,
if you think of just if you look at the care continuum, it's whether it's upstream care, downstream care.
Yeah.
And again, just really, as we have filled out the bench of talent on the team, well, there's two things. One, we've broadened that thesis. And two, we have amazing LPs, right? There's this LP base that we have, the way as it's comprised is not, they allow us to squint, so to speak. I mean, look, the first two investments we made out of Fund 2 was in co-fertility and Ramble, right? So sort of reimagining campgrounds in America. And as a lot of us have probably had some exposure to KOA and just an old, tired experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't get any more different than co-fertility and campsites.
Yeah.
So,
are you sure those are on the same thesis?
As we see it, yeah, because we're allowed to squint and people should be outdoors, and whether that's the physical benefits of that or the mental health benefits of that. Here's what is not different between those two is fantastic founders, right? Our job is our job is to invest within a thesis, but our true job is to bet on the right people.
Yeah.
Now,
bet on the jockey, not the horse.
Would we, would we be doing, defense tech? No. But again, a really supportive LP base that
you don't have to manage up. You don't have to worry about that. You were our first, and I think up until recently, our only male investor. I mean, most men that we have pitched or shared the idea just don't get it. It doesn't resonate with them. The importance of egg freezing and how it can be life-changing. But you immediately got it and have been like really excited and supportive about what we're doing. Like, how do you get yourself in that mindset of working in women's health and wanting to make healthcare better for someone that doesn't look like you at all in terms of life stage or gender?
I want to give a lot of credit to Jordan, who's just did a fantastic job, certainly in the early innings, just spending all the time to diligence the business.
He's a male, by the way. For listeners who don't know Jordan, he's a male.
He is a male. Yeah. That's a good point.
He's a guy.
But I had some exposure to fertility. When I was diagnosed in 96, I banked sperm, and my 3 older kids were conceived through IVF. Now, so I wasn't somebody that had zero exposure to this. I mean, Kristen and I almost immediately used IVF to have Luke, Grace, and Isabel, and then miraculously, 15 years later, had children naturally. So, but as this world evolves and work changes and the age at which maybe women or even families want to start have children is changing. Like, this is, I love it.
Yeah. There's, in a lot of the investments that are most impactful, they are also can be controversial. Not everybody, and in our case, not everybody believes that women should be able to freeze their eggs. A lot of people want young women today to quit their jobs and become trad wives. How do you, what is your take on companies that are kind of like pushing the needle in society and doing things that are like controversial to some?
I'm not anywhere near that camp. And
obviously.
Obviously. But even if I was just hearing the story, that I don't get that at all. Yeah. Time solves all those things.
Yeah.
Right? And history, right? Just
going back to time.
Just talk to us in 5 years, 10 years. It's not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Are there any other? The gift of children is such a, that's like my favorite thing. And look, I mean, when I did have that moment in my life 12 or 13 years ago where I did have to, I had to start over, and I said, okay, I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do. I just told myself one thing, and that is I have to protect my family, and I have to provide for my family. And that's all I cared about. I didn't care about, I hate to even say it, you call it a redemption story or call it I didn't care. I just wanted to care for my family. And if I could do that, I was good. Like everything else would be fine and would sort itself out. But it is this gift of children. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah. What do they think about your career arc? And I mean, you started one of the most impactful cancer foundations, and then now hugely impactful healthcare fund. What do they think about that? Are they just like nonplussed? They're just like, okay, Dad, go do your thing.
My older kids have a better understanding. If you asked my kids, hey, what does your dad do? They obviously know. They know that my entire story, and I never hide from that story, the good and the bad. But if you said, well, yeah, but what's he do now? They would say, oh, he's a businessman. Like they would probably they don't get in the weeds of like,
general.
So explain this to me. How does this work again? So you find young companies, you invest, and I mean, it's the older ones have a better understanding. But
what is something that you've learned as an investor that you didn't expect? As you said, you've hung around VCs, you've invested as an LP in other funds, so you knew quite a bit going in. But I'm sure there's been something that has been surprising.
We already talked about it. I mean, and there are others, but the length of time, which honestly I should have known. I mean, if you think about, or if I think about
how long it took to get paid back your LP.
Exactly. So if I was just going to say, like, if I think back to lowercase one and the Uber story, I mean, that took a long time. If I think back to Brad Silverberg and Ignition and the DocuSign story, that took even longer. I don't know. Maybe I was protecting myself from thinking about that. Look, it's logistically, it's not easy to manage a fund when you start to, especially when you're working with a small team, outsourcing a lot of things, comms with LP. Like this isn't just like, hey, send us some dough. We'll let you know how it goes. Hopefully send you some money back. Like there's a lot more touch involved.
Is there anything that you don't like about venture capital as an industry? And is there anything that you're just trying to do differently?
Well, I think at the moment, I mean, anybody in this space doesn't like liquidity or the lack of liquidity.
Okay, I was going to say we all want liquidity. Yeah,
no, we all want liquidity, but I mean, the lack of liquidity at the moment. This is as an asset class. It's a question we have to answer. Right, if you're an allocator looking at all these options, I mean, venture is sort of in the doghouse. I don't like that, but that just is what it is, and you hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now we've had liquidity primarily because of Aura, so I guess we're a little bit protected. But that's, by the way, too. In Fund 1, I'm the second biggest LP, and in Fund 2. I'm no longer the second biggest LP, thankfully, but I'm a large LP, so I also wear that hat.
You have skin in the game.
Absolutely. Look, venture, I think, and I don't love going to conferences and sort of being around the venture game, but I don't love going to any conference, so that's not a knock on venture.
You're not going to cycling conferences either.
I'm 100% not going to cycling conferences, but it's. There's kind of a game that's played. We just don't play the game. I mean, we're. And I kind of always think about Saka because Chris Saka was an outlaw, still is an outlaw. He's going to play the game. He wants to play the game, and he's proven that he knows how to play, and nobody's going to say anything. None of us went to Ivy League schools. None of us came from any of these big shops.
Did you didn't even go to college, right? You just went right into...
I didn't. I went to Europe.
So, you did graduate high school?
I did graduate high school, barely.
Yeah.
I was.
You weren't there a lot.
I was heavily distracted, but never even remotely considered going to college. I went straight to Europe out of high school. The way my brain works as well is complicated of a person as I am, which my wife would confirm. I try to simplify as many things as possible. So in my brain, I try to simplify the venture game, right? So you start a firm, you raise a fund, You source great deal flow. You win those deals. You support those founders, and you cross your fingers for an exit. Like, that's a very simple approach. All along the way there, if you can't do one of those things, it makes the game a lot harder to play. But look, occasionally I'll wear a vest. I actually love wearing
Is it embroidered?
It's Mel always gives, like, my partner Mel has been my partner right from the beginning. Every time I wear a vest, she's like, "Oh, get your vest on."
And Mel, your partner, she came from Nike, where she was. So you guys both kind of have this like health, lifestyle, performance perspective on investing. Just to kind of close out our conversation, I'd love to talk about that world, because right now, longevity, peptides, whole body screening, GLP-1s, all these things are just absolutely taking off. I mean, what used to be kind of niche performance athlete world is now becoming mainstream.
Yeah. You're right. And look, our view on that, which is, I don't think it's changed. I think COVID had such an impact on obviously had an impact on people's lives, and in this reset in their lives, or this renewed focus on health, whether or not they were of the camp of like, oh my God, we're all going to die. Shit, let's figure this out. Or just you come out of it and you're like, all right, here we are. Like, I'm going to start to make some changes. So it could be that there are so many data points here, right? Whether it's the rise of health influencers, we see them all the time. Mass participation events through the roof. Obviously, GLP-1s came right on the heels of that, but it is just this renewed focus on health, which, by the way, I think is wonderful, right? And many of our companies sort of rode that wave, Aura being an incredible example.
Oh, they've been at it for what, 15 years?
Right, but yes, well, about 10, and then but through COVID and out of COVID, really rode that wave, and so it's look, we lean into that. I think I think having society, and by the way, too, I'm living my life that way now at 55 years old. I just did a second Prenuvo. I did it about a month ago. I'm going through and checking every dashboard, every gut biome, every marker. I just want to know, like to me. And by the way, too, I'd rather know, right? And so, how do I set myself up for the back nine of life? Which is kind of the way I think about it.
And we've had the Prenuvo CEO on, and these companies, they're all direct to consumer and they're all cash pay, because our healthcare system has resisted anything that is preventive in nature.
Which is crazy.
We don't have a financing model for it.
Yeah. How many decades have we been talking about this quote unquote system?
Yeah.
And then you layer in policy change, administration change, trying to balance all this and see around the next corner makes it awfully hard. Again, as a former patient going back 3 decades, but also as a new patient, I'm a little bit, it's probably not fair to totally, I mean, I've received great care, even up until recently, even up until the day I went and got my Prenuvo, or all the other diagnostic stuff I've been doing. Did an amazing heart scan recently called HeartFlow. Okay. Just trying to...
I've heard of it, yeah.
Well, you have Clearly. I did Clearly years ago. I did HeartFlow recently. I have high cholesterol that leads to kind of the next suggestion, which I'm not a big fan of, starting some statin. So I'd just rather know, like, let's get in there. Like, I want to see, pull it up. I want to see it too. Nonetheless, just receive great care. I mean, it's a big problem. Even
if you were receiving great care, your needs were not fully met, and you had to kind of go outside our traditional healthcare walls to do these additional tests. But there's people like you and I, we have the ability to do cash pay options outside of our traditional system and get the answers that we need. One of the bigger issues is that there's such a disparity in outcomes based on your zip code, based on your socioeconomic status, your race. If you're in a rural area, your outcomes are far lower than someone living in a suburb. And, that population is really suffering from our healthcare system being reactive as it is. And then now with Medicaid cuts, making it worse and decreasing access even more. I'm curious if you've kind of spent any time thinking about our healthcare system as a safety net, or is more the work on more the optimization side, the cash pay side?
I mean, I would be probably more inclined or certainly more experienced to talk about that.
Yeah.
But then I also think, I tend to like to look in the future as opposed to looking in the past. What happens, right? What happens? And I mean, look, the one thing we haven't talked about is AI. Obviously, it's on the tip of everybody's tongue and everybody's talking about it. And look, there's parts of me that says this is, yes, like think about what we can do in terms of research and science and cures for certain things. Part of me also says, well, hang on, what happens? Because just to this group of people or this segment of the population you were just talking about, there might be a lot of people out of looking for jobs, right? And putting them in tough places. And I hate to think like that, actually. And look, for us as a firm, I mean, I think it is worth noting. I mean, while we have to think about AI, and my good friend Ryan Neese, we were doing this panel months ago. He had an interesting play on AI, which is authentic interaction. Boy, that is something, right? And so for us, it's the juggle between AI and AI, right? And never forgetting the authentic interaction. Certainly when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to what you put in your mouth, what you put on the table, what you give your children, like there still has to be that thoughtful human touch.
In healthcare too.
Absolutely.
Then who's delivering care?
Yeah. I mean, if I think back to my experiences, I mentioned the people. I mean, Latrice Haney was my nurse at IU. I can see her right here in front of me. Like she was an angel.
Oh,
she really was. And so, and when I say angel, I mean that. I mean, when she came in the room, I said, okay.
Yeah.
I feel safe.
Yeah.
And so we can't lose sight of that.
No, and obviously your work with Livestrong Foundation was to support everyone touched by cancer. And cancer is even more prevalent in certain communities and disenfranchised communities. So, cool to see how that has evolved. And I don't know if you remember this, but I went to your 2006 conference in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
And
was
we
it
met
06?
there.
No, maybe 08.
08, okay. And I met you and Sanjay Gupta there.
I think John McCain was there.
John McCain was there. Yeah, I mean, bringing, and what was really cool, and I've gone to so many healthcare conferences throughout my career, very few of them actually have real patients there, have like real people who are touched and who represent everyday Americans. And that was one of my big takeaways from that event was you gave voice and you gave stage time and you brought together folks from all walks of life. And that really stuck with me because I don't think we do a good enough job in healthcare recognizing that it goes beyond kind of our ivory towers and there are real patients who've been completely left out of our healthcare system. Yeah. So kudos for that. 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of that movement. All right. We owned a color. Yeah. We owned a brand.
Yeah.
We owned an audience. Like it was the most influential nonprofit, I would say, in the world.
Well, Lance, it was great chatting with you today. Thank you for all the work that you do and for being a supporter of us at Co-Fertility. And thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.